On this episode, we break down legend Roger Clemens
and weighted ball deceleration throws.
All right, Brent Porcio, Steven Godon here at Top Velocity, hashtag Pitch Tip Show, baseball tips, that's your question, at Top Velocity, hashtag Pitch Tips, baseball tips, hitting tips. We're going to answer it on the show. We need to get this hitting one. I know, guys, I'm not on the hitting as quick because we get so many pitching ones coming at us. So this will be another pitching episode. I promise next episode is hitting, so we'll get some hitting in there. Cool. Steven's finally got the nutritional programs up, so it's up to me to launch it, get it out there, hopefully in the next couple days. We'll have it on so everybody get excited. Oh, we also too got our booth number at the ABCA convention. I think it's 854, is it? 854 is our booth number at ABCA convention. Going to be a lot of fun. I guess it's going to be fun. That's what everybody says it's going to be fun. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be that much excitement going on. I mean, it's cool. If anybody is going there to hang out with us, that's awesome. We're excited. I think that's what will make it fun. But besides that, it's just a bunch of coaches going, who are you guys? What's Top Velocity? Y'all aren't doing weighted balls?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Where's Driveline's booth? Can you point us?
Oh, that's it? Okay. Yeah, so that's where we get stuck. No, then it gets cool. We will probably, let's see if it changes this year. Last year, we were the only barbell in the convention. We will have a barbell. We will have Matt Bruce, unless he doesn't make it on us, but we'll have Matt Bruce teaching some Olympic lifting. So if you want to come to our booth and speak with the man, not the myth, the man, the legend, Matt Bruce, he will be there answering anybody's questions on Olympic lifting. He is a 7-time world alternate, or not world alternate, 7-time world team member, 3-time Olympic alternate.
2-time Olympic alternate.
I'm already screwing it up. I'm trying to remember from last time.
I made it sound way cooler.
Yeah.
It was 2-time Olympic alternate, 7-time world champion.
No.
Yeah.
World team member. I was saying that too.
7-time world champion, and he was like, man, that sounds good.
Yeah. But he's a stud, and he runs Brute Strength, which is a very well-known programmer for CrossFitters, CrossFit competitors. Mm-hmm. So come out and hang out with us, and ABCA, a lot of stuff going on. Plus, David Arson will be there, Bob Wheatley will be there, I'll be there. A lot of other guys are going to be there. Zinger's going to be there.
Ooh, that's my favorite.
Of course, we're with King of the Hill. We got Rich there with all the King of the Hill plates next to us. It's a lot of fun. We are the cool guys. So if you want to hang out with the cool guys, come to 854 ABCA. All right, let's get started. Pitching Guru asks, can you break down Roger Clemens on the Yankees? All right, Roger Clemens. It's the first time I've ever heard of this guy. What do you got on him?
6'4", 205, from Texas. Really long career.
Jeez, this guy played like 23 years?
Lots of steroids at one point.
Roger Clemens? Okay, I know who Roger Clemens is. Yes, the Roger Clemens. A lot of us looked up to this guy back then. Good poor guy. Got his career tainted at the end. I don't think poor guy, but wasn't good for him. I think he was caught up in the Balco scandals. Wasn't the Balco scandals?
Yeah.
And really tough ending on his career. Should have probably just admitted it because everybody was doing it back then. But if we look back at him at Texas University, you know, he was a very dynamic pitcher. And then we look at him very young. I mean, almost like a Nolan Ryan story, like really, you know, great pitcher. And I think at the end, dabbled in some drugs to kind of keep it going. And I think it's unfortunate people remember that and not his great career. So I get it. But I think one thing about Roger is I put him in the category with Nolan where, you know, you see these veterans have these 20-plus year careers, throwing tons of innings, throwing lots of strikeouts, a lot of high fastballs, And what you saw was as they aged, they got bigger. And that's that balance of, typically we lose speed as we age, and if you can counter it with mass, then that way you can keep your energy up. Why is my computer doing that?
I don't know.
It's weird. So basically, as speed goes down, your ability to activate your movements, as that goes down, typical as we age, I believe it links to elasticity. Our skin sags as we age, so our muscles lose elasticity, like our skin, which would lead to speed, activation, stress shortening. So, in countering by mass, you get to a point where typically men, old man strength, men can gain strength as they age, as they lose speed. It's probably a way the muscles are working. One property's changing, the other one is overcompensating. I don't know exactly how it happens through age, but if you're getting slower but you're getting stronger, then you can move more mass at the same rate of speed, because really, as you add mass, reason people slow down is really because they don't have the strength behind their speed to be able to move the mass. So if you are getting stronger as you age but getting slower, and you're adding mass, you can almost balance out the energy production that you had when you were faster and lighter, equaling that when you're stronger and bigger. So I think Nolan and him were great examples of that. Anything you want to add about him?
No. I mean, yeah, you pretty much talked about it. He came into the league, didn't really, he kind of pretty much just looked like Nolan Ryan a little bit to me, kind of like I don't want to say skinny, but like a smaller guy. And then throughout his career, you obviously see at the end, he's this huge guy still throwing hard. And obviously, he got caught with the steroid stuff. And but it is an example of how as you get older and strength training and adding mass, like Brent's talking about, can help prolong the career even without illegal drugs.
Yeah, you could have done without it. It's just a lot harder.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing was, it was pretty cool. He was so well respected in the game. The end of his career, his contract allowed him to only travel with the team when he pitched. And supposedly, I had heard this, I forgot through a coach, that what he was doing was he was actually practicing with his son's minor league team. I don't know what level he was at, single A or something. He was practicing with them and then flying to his games that he would pitch at the major league level. So pretty cool for him. Could you imagine that? Getting to practice with your son's team and then fly to your big league games and pitch your big league games. So I'm sure that was probably a fairy tale for him at that much. Making all that money, getting to do that with his son. Pretty cool. It's just how well he was respected at the time. And unfortunately, I think the drug case really kind of killed that for him, unfortunately, and that respect that he's had. I think if Roger Clemens never would have been caught with that, that would have been all over the place today. I think he's really kind of gone in hiding because of it, which is a shame, because he's a legendary pitcher.
I saw him. I thought he played for some like indie ball. They put together like this indie ball dream team of professional players.
I'm sure.
I think he was.
It's kind of like him and Canseco running around with whoever will allow them to kind of keep their legacy going. And it's not that I would say Major League Baseball won't let him, do stuff with him, or maybe he will. I don't know. I just think it's hard on him. I think Major League Baseball, and for him as well, his image looks really tarnished because of all that. So
well, I mean, all of those guys do, but anyone who got caught with the steroids.
I think the ones that have just come out and been like, "I'm sorry, I apologize." Jose Canseco,
Mark McGwire.
Yeah, Jose Canseco's done that. McGwire, not so much Bonds.
But I mean, Bonds is still he's Marlins hitting coach. I'm not anymore, but. He got to be with the Marlins, the Giants. I know let him come into spring training and help out with the hitting stuff as well. So,
yeah, so he's right there, and I don't know when he's up for the Hall of Fame. I'm sure because of all the drugs. I'm sure that's obviously affected it. But they let Piazza in, and Piazza was a big suspect to drug use as well. So I'm thinking things are going to change. Roger Clemens might be next. I guess Piazza retired before Clemens, didn't he? So I'm sure Clemens is up soon. So let's walk through it. Let's take him into his leg lift. This is obviously at the end of his career with the Yankees here. So like I said, you're going to see more speed when you watch him earlier. He's way more dynamic. So bigger leg lift here. He never was a big first mover. He liked to set up in his leg lifts and then start to ride slowly through his drive leg. But he kind of like Nolan loaded up really well and picked up his speeds late, and obviously it really worked for him. But notice here a big move down. I find that a lot of guys with the high leg lifts, they have a hard time moving out as they load, and they get stuck kind of in this vertical force vector, loading pretty early, or not loading down before loading out, which ideally we want to see hips forward and down at the same rate. Okay, so then he starts moving late. So it's kind of like, I feel like at this point he's kind of like Kershaw. It's like that leg lift was just for show. Puts it down, now he's a slide stepper. You almost get that same feeling here, because when he puts that leg down, they're pretty much close to each other. He's just sitting flexing his back leg, and then he starts moving forward. So I kind of get the feeling of a slide step, or more of a Kershaw-esque delivery. And then the force vector starts to go, that ankle to knee starts to go. The hips are still leading pretty hard. He is opening front foot, and then what he does really well is he holds torsion for a long period of time, and then he's more of a rotator. I would say it's a version of a rotator slammer. It's like you're holding torsion, and then here comes the knee, internal, and slams it shin down. On this one, you just see the foot rolling over. Whoop. You just see the foot rolling over here, okay? But see how aggressively it rolls over to the point where the heel even pops up on the backside. So it's a rotator, which would be someone that would you'd see the toe pop up in like a hitter squishing the bug. So this is more of a knee slamming rotator. I think the other one like that was Pedro Martinez. Go back and watch Pedro Martinez, very similar. This works because there's still force coming out of it, okay? If it was just a pure rotator, he would just, like I said, like a hitter squish the bug. So there is force. The knees not just are it's not just internal rotation. There's force to drive the knee down, and you're pushing it down the mound, so there is some push coming off the rubber, just not as obvious as someone who would fully extend, like say, the way Chapman was when he first came up. But this works. I like to see aggressive internal rotation. I love to see aggressive internal rotation, but I also like to see some extension, some drive with it. And so this is max back leg internal rotation, not max extension drive. But I would rather see that than just max extension drive and very little internal rotation. I would rather see this version. But ideally, if he was able to fully extend, it would have been even better for him. But I just think it comes down to, did he have that kind of leg power? I'm not sure. He used a lot of his momentum into that movement. So what that does is he hits front foot. The leg is aggressively internal rotating with some force behind the hip. So it does help drive his hips up, and he separates very well. He pulls the elbow behind the back with horizontal abduction, late arm cocker as he hits front foot. He's right in that perfect 53-degree range we talked about. Then he fully arm cocks, okay? Then what momentum he has there starts to transfer. Now here's the thing, where if he was a full extender, we would see this more aggressive. We see hip abduction would be more aggressive. You can see his hip abduction is a little late because he's right here in full rotation, and the hip abduction isn't occurring yet. So his trunk is very vertical here at maximum external rotation, when typically high velocity pitchers have a little bit more forward trunk tilts into maximum external rotation. But he abducts his arm really well, and then now here it goes. See the abduction now starting? Okay, so it's coming, it's just coming a little late, but it still gets through almost. I mean, ideally it would be full extension to there. But I don't know, this could have been a change up. I don't know what this pitch was, but almost perfect, unless if we could have just gotten a little bit more power to move his center of mass and got that hip abduction to happen as he went into shoulder rotation, maximum external rotation, you would have seen even more power coming out of his body. But still, almost picture perfect, specifically doing it later in his career when it's harder you lose some of that explosiveness in your body. But still, I mean, to me, if you're, what did he weigh at the end? 230, probably 240.
Yeah, I'd assume somewhere around there.
If you're 246, what was he? 6'4"?
Yeah, 6'4".
And moving like that, that's really impressive, and it's amazing to see. That's probably his 22nd, 24th. I don't know if that was his last year in the league. It's pretty impressive. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, just coming out of the leg lift, like Brent says, I like how he really holds torsion in the back leg, and then goes into that knee slam, almost rotation, but that still works for him because hip internal rotation is such an accelerator, and the way that he just knee slams and then goes right into that rotation, you can still pick up a lot of energy through that. we've talked about before, it's probably not the healthiest way to do it, but at the time he was lifting, right? Because obviously, you know, he was roiding, so he was lifting weights and doing all that at the same time. So I'm sure that helped a lot with him keeping his lower half healthy and powerful. And then just for at his size, like Brent talked about, that's really impressive. But if you go back even when he was coming up with Boston, when we watched his career highlights, you could really see how dynamic he was in that movement. It was such a quick, explosive slam into internal rotation, and then he times it very well into front foot strike. And then, yeah, at front foot strike, good front leg position, and then he does a good job of stabilizing that energy, and then even getting a little pushback right into ball release. And then, yeah, I mean, he still gets some trunk movement from it, not as much as a full extender, but definitely get from the front leg stabilizing, extending, getting some trunk movement out of it, and you can see why he was, you know, a mid-90s guy for most of his career.
But you do see, if you look at the glove side, you do see a pretty aggressive scap load on the glove side, which I don't like to see. I like to see pitchers still in abduction with the elbow and late and more you know, downward tuck as opposed to left to right tuck. But do you think he's doing that
because he's not getting the hips all the way through at that point, so he's really working to leverage it against it?
Right. So this is trying to overcompensate for the lack of energy here that I said that was not helping him to abduct his hip into maximum external rotation. So I don't like that because that's just a little overcompensation for, like we said, with his power issues. But as far as the back arm, you know, everything's closed. He's not over hyperducting, hyper horizontally abducting, and the arm moves very perfectly, you know, into abduction at maximum external rotation and then extension and internal rotation. Yeah. So the arm path is really clean. And a lot too, because even with that glove side pulling, you don't see it really making him very rotational. He is able to, like we said, get the hip to abduct, get the front leg to extend, and get the trunk to move forward, which help protect the arm all the way to pitch release. So I think like the only flaw is a little lack of power in the back hip, and then the glove side pulling, which is typically overcompensating for the lack of that. So good one. We broke down the legend. Roger Clemens, obviously, definitely one of my favorites, and like I said, it's just hard to see his career being tainted by drug use, just because I believe something came late in his career, and it was a tough place. It wasn't even illegal until that end there, and then everyone was doing it, and it was such a mess for Major League Baseball. So I'm not too hard on Clemens. I guess I've been harder on Bonds because he was doing it a little bit later than Clemens. When did he retire, Bonds?
I don't know.
He was way after
probably
Clemens.
Like 2008. I'm just guessing, but I don't know.
Yeah, and so I mean the point is like some of the early movers to the drugs, it was hard just because they weren't really regulating it or even making it illegal. So, but still unfortunate.
2007.
7 was Bonds, or Clemens.
That was Bonds.
And Clemens was 2004 or something like that. Okay. So there we go. Another analysis of future Hall of Famer.
Clemens was 2007 too.
Okay, so they're both the same. So I guess I was wrong. I shouldn't have been so hard on Bonds. I guess Bonds was just more arrogant. He was in your face with it. I don't give a crap.
I feel like Bonds hasn't even admitted it.
I don't think he ever did. Yeah, you're right. And Clemens didn't really admit it. None of them really. I mean, did any of them admit it? I think Mark McGwire's the only one who admitted it later on, and Jose Canseco admitted it. I think Pettit, with his HGH, he admitted it. I think that's the problem here. I think if Clemens would have admitted it, I think he would have probably pushed through it a little better than he have. I think that was the only thing I think that did upset me with Clemens when he was denying a lot of it. But there you go. What are we gonna do? So it's a new era, new drugs now we're dealing with. So
the chemists just keep getting better and better, man.
I know. So find the legal way. It's just that old saying I say about drugs: you don't own it, meaning it owns you. So the only way you're gonna be good, obviously, if the drugs are making you good, the only way you're gonna be good is with the drugs. So it's really the drugs that are having the success, not you. I never liked that understanding. That's what. I mean, we're all tempted by it. Specifically, I was coming up through this era. We were all tempted by it, but that's the one thing that got me. I felt like you don't own it. It's something that it uses me. I mean, it owns me. I've got to put it in my system to be who
it's like renting
they want
a
me to be.
Lamborghini.
Right. It's not really me at that point. And I don't know how you could sit late in a career going, oh, that was just a lot of pride. I got so much pride. How great was I? Look at the accomplishment I had, and it was all drugs. I mean, I never got that. But some people do it. Some people, because they're not in it for the pride, they're in it for the money, and that's just the way it is, man. We all learn a lesson. We learn a lesson from these guys, but at the same time, too, we shouldn't discredit them because they were still greats, and Roger Clemens is definitely one of them. All right, next question.
Pitching Guru asks, thoughts on weighted ball reverse throws to build decelerator muscles?
All right. All these throws have come, a lot of these throws, weighted balls thrown to the wall, weighted balls just thrown in general, holds, deceleration throws. I experienced them in a PT room back in 1995 post rotator cuff surgery. I've seen them in PT offices forever. Now they're more mainstream, and that makes them look new and different. They're not. PTs have been using weighted balls in throws and holds and reverse throws forever, as long as PT's probably been around for throwing athletes. Here's the thing. We know, say the highest speeds we've seen, 7,200 to 9,000 reps per minute on the shoulder speeds. So basically it comes down to, they say for 7,200 degrees per second. That's degrees per second, I believe. Why am I saying reps per minute? It's degrees per second. So it's going 7,200 degrees per second. In 1 second, that's 20 times. So that's 7,200 degrees, that's 20 times around your arm, I believe. So that'd be 360 times 20. You probably get that number. Am I right? I hate my math. I'm totally going to do this number right now. Just if not, I'll look stupid. So 7,200 divided by 360 is equal to 20. So that's how we're getting it. So that's 20 times it goes around your arm. So think about that. If it's going that fast, they say that in an external rotation load of a pitcher is around 40 pounds of pressure they're holding in external rotation. So think about when it releases and hits that 7,200 degrees per second. How much load does it become then? Does it jump 3 times that? I don't know. I don't seen a study which says how much poundage is hitting the decelerators in deceleration. What does that equal to in pounds? I'm sure it's going to be higher than what it was in external rotation. So here's my thing. How is taking a ball, say it's 1 pound, 2 pounds, it could be 5 pounds, throwing it backwards, equaling the same amount of load that it's experiencing in deceleration? I don't think it's even close. So I feel like what you're trying to do makes sense, but as far as the math, how it equates to the deceleration forces, I don't even think it's close. As far as what I'm guessing. I don't have the studies, and I don't believe there's any studies on that. So to me, a better approach is building the muscles with loads, more than likely loads heavier than what they would ever, the body would have to endure to decel. And that would be the muscles that decelerate the arm, which are the lats, which are the traps, help stabilize the scaps, which is the rotator cuff muscles. Obviously, those aren't going to be able to handle a lot of loads. And I think that's where a lot of guys have gotten confused. They thought, well, we're doing 5-pound jobs. Wouldn't it be better to throw that 5 pounds straight behind me and a more quicker explosive movement? But it's fine. I mean, it's not really, because those rotator cuff muscles is all we're working here. And those are little muscles that once the loads get more than 5 pounds, it shifts to the big muscles. So if we're shifting the big muscles like the lats and the traps, is really say a 2-pound ball going to develop the strength in those muscles to support deceleration of the scaps? No. So to me, if you really want to train deceleration, you've got to be doing pull-ups. Seeing a kid in here who can't do one pull-up and is having shoulder problems, right there, of course, if you're throwing 85, 90 miles an hour and you can't do a pull-up, then those lats can't decel your arm. So throwing a 2-pound ball behind your back as fast as you can isn't going to strengthen that shoulder, that arm, because it doesn't even come close to the amount of loads that's hitting that arm that you will more easily address and build and develop in a pull-up, a lat pull, a weighted pull-up, a row. And yes, the rotator cuff muscles are important for the fact that they help create a lot of the movements. But as far as the decelerators, you hope the rotator cuff muscles aren't handling most of the deceleration forces, because they can't. You hope it's in the lats, you hope it's in the traps, and a little 2-pound ball thrown behind your back isn't the best way to develop them to handle those kind of forces. That's my approach. I think PTs did it to help those get their arms back to normal after surgery, I don't believe it's for those who are trying to develop their upper bodies for the wear and tear of pitching. That's my approach. What do you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like you're talking about, a very PT-ish approach where you're taking, a 1 to 2 pound ball and doing these backward throws, as opposed to building up all the areas around it, the lat, the scaps, rotator cuff muscles, the shoulders just in general. So to me, it would be more, if I wanted to strengthen decelerators, I would do something like fat man pull-ups with fat grips. So you continue to add weight to that as they progress. Pull-ups, like Brent's talking about, add weight to that as they progress. You can do some weighted pull-ups. Let's see what else. Overhead holds for 2 minutes with adding weight and progressing with that, getting stronger, and then at the same time doing joint integrity stuff, which would be the shoulder routines with the lighter dumbbells, building up the rotator cuff, the small intricate muscles to keep those healthy at the same time. And you keep building the athlete that way, as opposed to just focusing on, hey, I'm going to throw this 1 to 2 pound ball and this is going to build up all the decelerators in my body. That's just me. If I was working with an athlete, I would have them do everything I just said, as opposed to just throwing a 1 to 2 pound ball. But I mean, that's our approach.
And there's studies, we have a study that shows that professional pitchers use more lat activation in their throws, and amateur pitchers use more rotator cuff. To me, that means also, one thing is that the pros are probably throwing harder, and also two, they're throwing with better mechanics. And really, what is good mechanics? It's a kinetic chain, and it's taking that humerus and locking it into that glenoid, into the shoulder joint, that little ball and socket, and making sure that every muscle in the body can stabilize it and hold it in that position. That's why we want to kill a lot of the horizontal abduction, adduction movement. We just want rotational movements, and we want the body to be strong enough to lock that in, specifically when all those forces hit the body. And just because you've throwing a 2 pound, 1 pound ball behind your back isn't really training the body at the best it can be to locking that ball and socket into place. Getting into the big muscle groups as well, the lats, the pecs, the deltoids, the traps, and building that strong to suck that thing into that socket and not allow it to move out and tear the labrum, tear the rotator cuff. That's the key to developing shoulder strength in healthy pitchers. Throwing a light ball in a reverse throw isn't going to be that successful in creating a strong ball and socket in the arm.
Yeah, I think, I agree with that.
Cool, good question. Any other questions? Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Musically, @TopVelocity, #pitch tips, #basal tips. Ask your question on the show. ABCA guys, we got Long Beach camp. We still got 3X camps coming up. Jump on those if you can. See you on the next episode.